this meeting to order. If you please rise. I have the invocation by Supervisor Brotherton, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Supervisor Mohave.
O Heavenly Father, we come to you with thankful hearts for all your blessings, our great country, our state, and county. We pray that all leaders will govern in your spirit and truth, for where there is truth, there is freedom. We ask for your wisdom in every decision we make, that it might be right in your sight and beneficial to this county. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I almost blew it.
Okay, we need a motion and action to call for an executive session to be held on February 4th, 2013 at 9 a.m.
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion's carried. Move on down to item number 2, committee or legislative reports. Anyone have a committee report? There being none, move on to the county manager's report.
Nothing today, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hendricks, thank you. Number 4, approval of the October 15th, 2012 Board of Supervisors meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Approval of the October 15th meeting. And this morning, we have the call to the public. Those wishing to address the board should fill out the request forms in advance. Action taken as a result of public comments will be limited to responding to criticism, referral to staff, or placing the matter on a future agenda. Comments are restricted to items not on the regular agenda, with the exception of those that are on the consent agenda, and must relate to matters within the jurisdiction of this board. Mac McCarthy, would you please come up and address the call to the public? If you'll please state your name and address, sir.
My name is Walter McCarty, and I live in Golden Valley, Arizona. Morning, Mr. Chairman and other members, newly elected, and some of you recently re-elected. It's a pleasure to have the chance to address you. I've tried for 30 years to get a law, or get the law that's enforced, the Constitution, for the people and follow, including these meetings, that people are allowed to bring weapons into this meeting. All you got to do is look around and watch TV and see who kills who, when and where, and under what circumstances. And it's very, very sad that anybody happened to be present when those events happened. They could have stopped all of these crazy killings that are happening all over. So I ask you to, once again, to please seriously consider doing away with all this expensive stuff of having to be searched without a warrant, and also be allowed to bring a weapon into this meeting. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Stephen Robinson.
I'm Stephen Robinson, living at 3439 North Bowie Road in Golden Valley. Chairman Watson, Vice Chair Angus, Supervisors. I am both honored and humbled to be addressing the Mohave County Board of Supervisors in an open call to the public for the first time in many, many years, if ever. On behalf of all the citizens of Mohave County, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. I speak today about a pressing issue, a matter of the upcoming Merit Commission hearing. I represent a former county employee, Jerry Sides, for this hearing, and I chose to speak today on a very serious issue that I know you can't vote on it. You can inquire of the county attorney and direct the staff to review the material I've provided and judge for our concerns. The board governs the content of the merit system rules, and the county manager through the Human Resources Department implements those rules. Whether the system is good or bad is a discussion for another time. Today, they are the rule of law. Rule 604 governs appeals from dismissals, demotions, and suspensions, unpaid suspensions. Yet it is not being followed today, specifically Rule 604B3 that mandates an appointment of a hearing officer independent of anybody in the county. I've sent documentation to the clerk of the board's office showing what is required and that it was amended on January 27th, 1997 to require a hearing officer to be appointed. As an aside, Bill Ekstrom, County Attorney, as well as the Merit System or Merit Commission, endorsed the change of the rule that mandated the appointment of a hearing officer. Now, we've been denied that step due in part to the Merit Commission's hearing procedures, which in part virtually duplicates Rule 604, except for the appointment of a hearing officer. Now, furthermore, the state law requires that there be 5 commissioners from which a quorum of 3 is established. Except for a period from October 15th to the end of last year, there haven't been 5 commissioners for at least 7 years. There are other issues addressed that cause me concern as well. My desire is that the Merit Commission continue the upcoming hearing until the merit rules, the issues of the merit rules and the statutes requiring 5 commissioners be resolved. My concern is only for the fair adjudication of the hearing and the unwavering adherence to the rule of law. The process must be fair and impartial. Thank you very much for your attention to this issue, and I will answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Jim Consolato.
Good morning, all you commissioners, and happy to be here this morning and able to speak.
If you'll please state your name and address, sir.
Yes, Jim Consolato, 3024 Malibu Road, Golden Valley, Arizona. So my subject this morning is quite brief. It may be redundant because you're probably going to do it, but I was going to suggest that we update the county website as soon as possible in every way that's possible. One thing that I noticed recently was there is still a picture of former county manager Ron Walker on the website. I don't think that's appropriate. I would understand if all the new supervisors' profiles and whatnot have not been added yet. We'd hope to see that soon. In addition, I think there is an issue of the open merit rules. When you go under the merit rules, the first thing you see is a red flag stating that they are under construction. I do believe they have been under construction for several years now. And so this is not a good way to proceed with business when you have a set of rules that can be somewhat manipulated by virtue of the fact that they are deemed under construction. That would lead itself or lend itself to an interpretation on an individual basis. Simply said, if somebody is not liked, those rules could be tweaked or twisted in a way that's detrimental to them. And vice versa, if somebody is a well-liked person and falls under those rules, they could also be interpreted in that fashion. So please, with all expedience, update the website. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Okay, the following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion, with no separate discussion of those said items, unless the board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action. Supervisor Moss, do you have anything to pull from the agenda this morning?
None.
Supervisor Brotherton?
No.
Supervisor Angius, you have listed item 28 and 43,
Correct.
and Supervisor Johnson?
Was that 28 and 43?
Yes.
I'll add 33.
Any other items?
Mr. Chairman, then if I may, I'll make a motion to approve the consent items 28, 33, 43.
Thank you. We have a motion
Second.
and a second for the consent agenda approval, minus items 28, 33, and 43. Any further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Item 28. Here we go. Now you're on.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify something about the way that streets are taken into the county system. I understand that back in December 11th of 2011, there was a moratorium, but I just want an explanation. I believe this was approved before that, or this was an exception to that. Just want a little bit of history.
We have a motion for discussion.
So,
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Whom did you wish to address?
Mr. Lukowski's coming up. I think he might have an answer.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Supervisors, and Supervisor Angus. This particular item pertains to the acceptance of streets pursuant to a subdivision plat that was approved and accepted by the Board of Supervisors for the development estates at Cimarron Lake. As Supervisor Angus pointed out, the board did pass resolution number 2011-179, which placed a suspension or a moratorium on the acceptance of roadways petitioned to the Board of Supervisors for acceptance. This particular subdivision, as it relates to the completion of roadways per subdivision, Arizona Revised Statutes 11-806 provides for a requirement for the Board of Supervisors to accept roadways developed pursuant to a subdivision plat, provided that those roads were completed in accordance with county standards. These roads were in fact completed to county standards and acknowledged to that effect by the board previously, and this action is for means of a formal acceptance of those roads for subdivision for Mohave County maintenance. So to summarize, these particular subdivision roads were not petitioned to the county, but actually completed pursuant to a subdivision plat that was accepted by the board.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions by any other board members? Thank you, Mr. Lutowski. Chair would entertain a motion for item number 28.
Was it to accept? Of 20.
I move we approve item 28.
We have a motion
I second.
and a second to approve item number 28. Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carried. Item number 33,
Chairman, I'd make a motion for discussion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for discussion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, let's discuss.
I'll have questions of Mr. Timko and Mr. Ekstrom. County Attorney Ekstrom, I see in here that it says monies are to be paid out of the quarter-cent sales tax. The quarter-cent sales tax is put into place for new capital projects. Under that, it says new capital, this is under definitions, new capital county facilities shall include facilities initiated after '99 and shall not include repairs or expansion of facilities in existence as of August 1st. I'm questioning the use of quarter-cent sales tax funds when it specifically says we cannot use those. And the other question I would have of Mr. Timko would be, is my understanding that the quarter-cent sales tax is not generating enough money to cover the bills we have now, and we're using general fund to offset that, so how can we be taking money out of something that doesn't exist? Those are my two questions.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Johnson, I was not aware of that specific exclusion of the use of the the quarter-cent sales tax fund. And in fact, I specifically requested that it be the 410 fund rather than the general fund because of the transfers that we made in the current budget from the general fund to the debt service reserve fund. The quarter-cent sales tax can very well handle this expense, but I was unaware of that specific exclusion, and it can also just as well be amended motion to have it come from the general fund contingency.
Thank you. Those are the only questions I had.
Thank you, Mr. Timko.
Okay. So I make a motion to amend this number 33 to approve establishing a construction budget of $601,899 with funding from the following sources: $140,000 from the Superior Court Law Library fund account number 2031200, $150,000 from the Justice Court Enhancement Fund account number 263-11700, and $311,899 from the general fund. Correct? Authorize the deposit of these funds into the existing Lake Havasu LHC Court Expansion Fund, number 410929001, and approve the Public Works Department to manage the project for completion for the new courtroom.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed,
Aye.
motion carried. Item number 43.
A motion to discuss?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for discussion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried for discussion. Supervisor Angus.
Okay, just a little history. Last year, just about this time, I stood out there and I asked the board up here why we were spending $2,000 a month to rent office space, what comes down to office space, for when we have so much empty office space. And I thought it was a reasonable question, as I do today. And that question wasn't answered to the best, it wasn't answered to the best of my satisfaction at that time. There was another issue involved because that building was co-owned by 2 county employees, and I thought that there was a conflict of interest. I'm happy to report today that that matter was referred to Coconino County because of all the conflicts, and they concurred that that should have been disclosed. And today I saw in the packet that those 2 employees did, a little late, but did provide a conflict of interest disclosure. And I hope in the future, whenever there is a financial conflict, if employees have a financial benefit that comes into this county, that they will disclose that, and that, as by statute, it goes out to public bid. So all of that being said, and now that this is coming up again, I'd like to table this for another month so I can do my own research and then hopefully come back and report to the citizens why we are spending $2,000 a month on office space when there's so much office space available.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table this item until the February meeting. Further discussion?
The only discussion I would have is, does that leave us any problems with the lease running out or not having a place for our vehicles?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Johnson, I'd like to have John Timko come up here and address that for
Certainly.
purchasing.
Mr. Timko?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I would only point out that the current lease does expire the 1st of February, and we would be without a lease then and dependency between the 1st and any opportunity for the board to take further action. I would also point out that, being well aware of the controversy surrounding this issue the last time it came up, that the procurement staff as well as the library staff have made an extensive search of available properties, commercial properties, in the city of Kingman, and explored 10 other options to this lease, none of which were found to be acceptable. They were either more expensive, too large, too small, or not having the facilities that we needed. And for that reason, we've proposed this current lease to be renewed for one more year. I would point out that the library is also in the process of engaging in a needs assessment for physical plant and property, which would include relocating this into a county facility at such time as the needs analysis is done. This will be part of the need that will be addressed with any changes that the library would propose there. We expect that to be done in the next 6 months. And so absent any viable short-term alternative, if the lease is not approved today, then we're going to be without a lease at the end of January.
Thank you, Mr. Timko.
Can't we just extend it vote on for 1 month? I would just feel comfortable for my own and questions that have been asked of me by the public that I can come back with a clean slate and tell them what I found out. So if there's any way to make that happen for 1 more month, just table this for 1 more month, that's what I'd like.
Is there a way of having a special meeting between now and the conclusion of the lease, just on this one issue?
Mr. Chairman, yes, you can have a special meeting. Otherwise, I'd be willing to contact the lessors and request that they give us a 1 month extension to the termination of the lease so we can do that.
If I remember correctly, last year, it was, that same thing happened, and it was, they granted us that extension to do that, so that's what I would
They've been really good to work with, so I would anticipate that we could get an extension. If not, then a special meeting would be your other option.
Okay, so.
Mr. Chair, the only question I would have is, let's say they decide not to honor the 1 month, do we have a plan available to move all of our stuff that's in there out, or?
Well, Mr. Chairman, anytime you depart from a lease, you open the entire lease for renegotiation, and so I can't speak for the leaseor, but right now we have a lease that allows for an extension with a 3% increase. That may or may not be honored if we don't exercise. I just can't speak for the landlord in this case. I'm certainly not suggesting that that's a reason not to do this. I'm just suggesting that you need to take that into consideration. If you don't approve the lease per its terms, then the entire lease comes open for renegotiation.
Can this be contingent on what the lessor says, if they'll grant us this very short extension?
Anything that the board wishes to do, we'll take to the landlord.
Thank you, Mr. Timko. My understanding that if that is not resolved, that we could have a special meeting concerning this item. My recommendation might be to amend your motion then to recognize the fact that it could be extended then for another month.
Mm-hmm.
In concurrence with the lessor?
Yes.
Okay. You'll need to make that amendment.
Okay. I make the motion to extend that lease for another month.
Or call a special meeting?
And call a special meeting to extend that lease at that time.
I second the motion.
Mr. Chairman, for clarity, would it be better to say, make a motion to table for a month and if not able to negotiate a continuation with the landlord, then to call a special meeting. That way, it might be a little easier for us.
Thank you, Supervisor Johnson. That's perfect.
Thank you for the clarification, Supervisor Johnson. And would you like to amend your?
Well, why don't,
Oh, make a motion on item number 43 to continue until our next meeting. If the contract can be extended for a short period of time. If it cannot, then to have the chairman call a special board meeting.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a point of clarification. I'm assuming if they extend the lease for a month, it would be at the new term, at the new rate, which is a 3%.
Under the terms and conditions of the old contract, I believe.
I think there's a 3% increase built into it, and so it'd be a small amount of an increase for the extra month.
Thank you. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, and motion carried. Now we'll move down to public hearings. Item number 50A, open the public hearing for the discussion, possible action, adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolution number 2013-004, amendment to the Mohave County General Plan from UDA to LDR, land use designation to urban development area, general commercial, and urban development area, commercial recreation land use designations, and an amendment to the Virgin River Communities Area Plan from a low-density residential land use designation to general commercial and high-density residential land use designations to allow development of a recreational vehicle subdivision and commercial area, and amend exhibits 6.4 and 6.5 of the general plan to match for the assessor's parcel number 402-42014 in the scenic vicinity south of County Road 91, approximately 1.3 miles east of the state line, Mohave County. Commission has recommended approval by unanimous vote. Do we have anyone wishing to speak to item number 50A? No one wishes to address item number 50A. Chair would entertain a motion for.
I move to approve 50A.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, motion carried. Item number 50B, open the public hearing. Discussion, possible action, adoption of the Board of Supervisors Resolution number 2013-005, the rezone of assessor's parcel number 402-42-014 from a proposed single-family residential manufactured homes prohibited zone to a general commercial highway frontage and special development commercial recreation zone to allow for the development of a recreational vehicle subdivision and commercial area in the scenic vicinity south of County Road 91, approximately 1.3 miles east of the state line of Mohave County, Arizona. The Commission has recommended approval by unanimous vote. Is there anyone wishing to address item 50B? No one addressing item 50B. We'll close the public hearing. And
I make a motion to approve item 50B.
we have a motion
Second.
and a second for the approval of item 50B. Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Item 51, open the public hearing for the discussion, possible action, the adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolution number 2013-006, denying an extension of time for a rezone of assessor's parcel number 228-26-005 from an agricultural residential 1 acre minimum lot size zone to a C2 general commercial and commercial manufacturing open lot storage zone for general commercial uses, for the storage of boats, recreational vehicles, similar items, and denying an amendment to the Board of Supervisors Resolution number 2006-156 to remove condition number 3 in the South Mohave Valley vicinity, northeast of corner of El Rodeo Road and Mountain View Road, Mohave County, Arizona. Commission has recommended denial by unanimous vote. Anyone wishing to speak to item 51 in the open public hearing? Close the public hearing. For item number 51, Chair will entertain a motion.
I move to approve item 51.
I'll second.
Deny it.
Move to approve the denial?
Correct.
Correct. We have a motion for the approving the denial. As with the second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Moving now on to our regular agenda, item 52, discussion, possible action in the matter of a lien placed on property of Anita Warren in the Lake Havasu area. Motion for discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion for approval.
Motion for approval. Thank you. Supervisor Johnson?
We can go right to that.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Is there any discussion?
Was there anyone here to speak on that item at all? I mean, was there anyone here to speak on this?
Is there anyone here to speak to that issue?
Yeah. Anyone in the public, did we find that out or not?
Anyone in the public wishing to speak to this item?
Patty Mead here.
No? Okay. Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carried. Item number 53, discussion, possible action, Board of Supervisors Resolution 2013-008, supporting the CSA legislative priorities for the 2013 regular legislative session.
Motion to discuss?
We have a motion
Second.
and a second for discussion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, do we have a presentation by Mr. LeBach, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Supervisors. The resolution you have before you reflects the adopted CSA priorities, which were actually adopted prior to you taking office, but they are 3 priorities primarily. One is the ceasing of the practice of charging our county for sexually violent persons housed and treated at the state hospital. Currently, we have 1 person in there that we are paying roughly $8,000 per month for an indefinite period of time on. There's a second person that they have billed us for that we have denied payment because while the person is there, they have yet to be deemed a sexually violent person. Should that person be deemed a sexually violent person, our billing from the state hospital will go to approximately $18,000 per month. Previously, that was not an item that was billed. It was passed down to the county during the troubled times for the state. The second legislative priority would be the restoration of HERF funding, which I believe you're all familiar with, and the third is the restoration of the distribution of state lottery funds to go back to the counties. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. LeBach? Thank you, Mr. LeBach. Chair would entertain a motion for the adoption of Board of Resolution number 2013-008.
I move that we approve item 53.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried. Item 54, discussion possible action regarding the approval of the appointment of Rashida Suminski as the interim fiduciary, range 22, step 1, based on Human Resources Department special detailed pay recommendation effective January 7th, 2013. Ms. Suminski has a public fiduciary license and can perform the duties of the public fiduciary during this special detail period as per Arizona Revised Statutes 14-5601. Motion for discussion or action?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of item number 54. Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carried. Item 55, discussion or possible action for the approval of the appointment of Keith Walker to the Planning and Zoning Commission representing Supervisor District 1, term to expire January 7, 2017.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve
Second.
and second. Further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Item 56, discussion, possible action, approval of the appointment of Stephen Buck to the Planning and Zoning Commission representing Supervisorial District Number 2, term to expire January 7th, 2017.
I move that we approve the appointment of Mr. Buck.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Item number 57, discussion, possible action, approve the appointment of Robert L. Jones to the Planning and Zoning Commission representing Supervisorial District Number 2, term to expire January 7th, 2017. Yes.
Okay, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I'd like to introduce Mr. Jones. He's here. So if you can stand up, Mr. Bob
Wait.
Jones.
Mr. Jones? Thank you. All right.
I expected him to break into song with an introduction like that.
Have any song this morning,
Good,
Mr.
too.
Jones? Thank you. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Item number 58, discussion, possible action, direct staff to work with the City of Bullhead City and Bureau of Land Management for the conveyance of the title Bullhead City Senior Nutrition Center Building and property located at 2275 Train Road, Bullhead City, to the City of Bullhead City, county to relinquish site parcel that is part of the original Bureau of Reclamation Land Management lease number A-10199 to facilitate Bullhead City leasing the site parcel from the BLM and permit the transfer of title of 6 motor vehicles currently assigned to the senior center. Motion for discussion?
Motion for discussion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for discussion.
People signed up.
Pardon me?
There are people signed up to speak.
Yes, Mr. Cotter?
Good morning, Chairman Watson and Supervisors. It's good to be here this morning. As you all know, some of you who were on the board, those of you who are watching, knew that over the past 18 to 24 months, the city and county had been working together on the transition of the Senior Nutrition Center and the food program. The city has done an exemplary job. We've grown the program. In fact, that we are feeding more people in Fort Mohave and Bullhead City than has ever been done before. It's been a great program. And so our request, once again, as it was in our original partnership and moving forward, was to transition the entire program, and that included the building. Now, we all know that this sits on BLM land, like all of the buildings that are publicly owned in Bullhead City. For the most part, they're all on BLM land. We work with the BLM every day on those properties, and so we worked with the BLM during the original transition, and we've talked to the BLM since. The BLM agrees with the transition and would be happy to work with us in the final transition of the building to the city. And so some may ask, well, why does it matter? You know, why can't we just continue with this partnership? And quite frankly, we could. However, as we asked over a year ago, essentially now we're investing money into the property. There's more work that's needed at the property. For example, during some flooding last year, we had to fix the roof. That was about a $5,000 price tag. We've also are desperately in need of repaving the parking lot, which we're committed to doing, and there'll be other maintenance on that building. That's just one issue. The other issue is the fact that having the necessity to get approvals by the county for fixing things, for use. From time to time, the agreement is pretty concise on what the county wanted us to do with the building. We believe there's probably a few other community options that could take place there outside of just seniors and food, although that's the primary purpose, and that's what people are doing there right now as we sit here. Joining me today is our council member, Kathy Bruck. She's sitting in the audience, and I'm sure will be happy to answer any questions as well. As you may know, Kathy's probably one of the strongest advocates in this county for seniors and senior food programs, not just in Bullhead City, but through her ventures on the WACOG board. So we're here today to ask for your support. Certainly we appreciate Supervisor Angus's support and her putting this on the agenda. The city is committed to this program. If you look at any of the details, that the program has been very strong since the city has taken over. We've committed our general fund resources. It is a priority of the city council. It's a priority of the city moving forward. Should be no doubt after seeing us perform that it's a good program that our citizens are now growing to expect. We have no waiting lines. We've not created any lists. We're feeding those who are hungry in Bullhead City and Fort Mohave, and we're going to keep doing that. And we hope that ownership of the building can be part of that future for the program. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have as well. I do have the contracts that we've signed, our grant applications that we've had through WACOG. And so we're here to answer any questions and look forward to your support.
Thank you, City Manager. Mr. Cotter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just have a couple. How much money did Bullhead City save the county by taking over this program?
Well, I don't want to speak for the county, but there were numbers that your finance department was throwing around when this all came down, and it's certainly tens of thousands of dollars that the county was putting into the program. It's not free to Bullhead, of course, right? So far our general fund subsidy has exceeded $50,000 for the program. That'll just become part of our general fund budgeting process. And the program continues to grow. Unlike other sites, we have not created waiting lists. We have not stopped people from coming. So we've had to reach out, not only dig deeper in our own budget, but reach out in the community and apply for grants, look at other food donations, and really make this part of the community fabric, not just looking as a government program per se. And our community has stepped up and will, I'm sure in the future, continue to step up with donations.
And just to reiterate, Bullhead City takes care of the maintenance, the upkeep. Who pays the insurance?
The city.
The city. So you take all of that liability.
Yeah, the contract that we have with the county right now pretty much puts that onus on the city. So whether we have title to the facility or not, we'll continue to provide all the maintenance, all the insurance. We're providing that liability coverage. It's worked out this past year. We haven't had any issues. The county's been great to work with. But we're just thinking about the future here. And now, as we grow the program and as the community grows, we believe it would just be the right move for this program for a long time to come.
Right. And that's the only use this building can have is the one that's designated now according to the BLM original lease, correct?
It is.
Okay.
Manager Hendricks.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'd like to provide some clarification on the vehicles. The original term of the lease, the IGA with the city, was July 1st, 2011 through 2012. And in conferring with Mr. Ekstrom, one of the conditions of the intergovernmental agreement was within 30 days of the effective date of this agreement, the county will transfer title to 6 motor vehicles used by the county to the city for the city's use in providing senior meals. That provision also goes on to say if this agreement is terminated for any reason during the initial term, city will reconvey title to the vehicles to the county upon request. And I believe we're past that initial term, so title should be transferred for those 6 vehicles to the city currently. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hendricks.
Mr. Chairman, I had questions of Mr. Cotter before he steps down.
Certainly.
And I guess that was one of the questions I was going to bring up. It'd be nice if we had that in our backup, but we've already given you 6 vehicles. Are you asking for 6 more?
No.
All right. Mohave County gave Bullhead City 3 acres of land to build a senior center in 1991 and a recreational place with the provisions of probably doing a pool. Is that true too?
BLM property.
Right. That was under our so the city had a facility that obviously wasn't up to standards, or you wouldn't be using our facility, is basically what we're saying.
The senior center that is right next to the nutrition center does not have a fully commercial kitchen. There's a small kitchenette, if you will, not to the standards of the current building.
That's basically the only question I have, Mr. Cotter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cotter. Any further questions, Supervisor Johnson?
Mr. Enzo, I guess that's the question, is the only one.
Sure. Mr. Enzo?
Supervisor Watson and members of the board, I'd like to clarify that all 6 vehicles have been transferred within 30 days from the time we signed the lease. So that has been accomplished. I just wanted to clear that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the speaker. Hi, Susie.
Hi.
Did the savings that the county realized from I'll say the removal of the Bullhead City Senior Center from the county system, were those savings transferred to the other senior centers that the county supports and maintains?
Okay, let me clarify a little bit the sources of funding for the senior program, okay? The sources of funding for senior programs for all our centers come from WACOG, come from fees that we generate from the meals, come from access, come also from the general fund. I assume you're asking about the general fund transfer.
That is correct.
Okay. The last year that we managed the program, wherein Bullhead City was with us, there was a commitment from the county of $251,563 for the operations of the senior program for the entire county. Okay? Based on that, we were able to divide that general fund transfer to each of those centers. Let's take Bullhead City, for instance, on the last year. Bullhead City's portion of the general fund transfer was let me see, $22,408. Now, remember that as we get the funds, the general funds from the county, we actually divide them to the different centers based on the need of prior years. So when we developed the budget for each of those centers, we then realized how much WACOG money we're getting, how much money we're generating from the access, the meal donations, and so on. And the difference of that, we get general fund subsidy, okay? The last year, we were able to get Bullhead City $22,408 subsidy from the general fund. That is what they needed to support the operations based on prior years. So when Bullhead City, then the program was transferred to the city, the money that the county has pledged to the program, the county program, has not changed. So what we have done is used what we have been given to Bullhead City to the other areas to be able to support their operation.
So then the answer would be yes, that the other senior centers funding increased as a result of Bullhead City taking over the program from the county.
That's correct.
Excellent.
It's not really increased, but it was given to support the level of operations they needed for the other centers, which we needed at the time for the other areas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Any more questions for me?
Mr. Ekstrom?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask any board member making a motion on this to authorize staff to execute necessary documents in communication with the BLM, because this is a process we have to start right away.
Okay. Ready? Okay, I make a motion to approve and authorize the relinquishment of the Bullhead City Senior Nutrition Center site parcel portion of the BLM lease to Bullhead City and direct staff to prepare any necessary documents to accomplish the conveyance and relinquishment for the chairman's signature.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second.
I have discussion, Mr.
Further
Chairman.
discussion? Supervisor Johnson?
Previously, in this agenda, we talked about space for the library and how we have space, we should own space and not lease space. We have departments in the Bullhead area who are leasing space now, which could be using this space where it could save the taxpayers money. I realize this is an attempt to get around the gift of our property from the taxpayers without getting fair market value for it, which I don't think is right. That's a over 5,000 square foot building. Taxpayers have spent money on that. We have uses for it. I believe it's a gift of funds for not a fair market value, but that's all.
Mr. Chairman, can I say a few words?
Supervisor Johnson. Supervisor Moss.
First off, it's my opinion, and I think some of the data is in our background material, that a building which can be used only for a community center is not necessarily available as a library warehouse. It's deed restricted or lease restricted to being used for the purpose it's currently being put it. And whether it's Bill Gates wanting to bring IBM in there or whatever, Apple or whatever he's involved in, or us deciding we want to put our administration building in there, that's not a community center. We wouldn't be allowed to do that under the lease. Second, by ensuring that as a permanent basis, we have transferred this program to the city, we will have saved, as I understand Susie's comments and the city's comments, we will save the county a considerable sum of money, and we will have improved the quality of service that we are now providing to our other county-run senior centers. So there is a significant savings and a benefit to the county by transferring this program. So to the extent that the city has agreed to run a senior center without having to put its hand into the county's pocket going forward, they have done us a considerable favor, and they have benefited the residents of Mohave County and Bullhead City, which are our constituents also, a tremendous amount, and it saved us a lot of time, effort, employee focus, and money in doing so. So I don't consider this to be a free transfer at all. They're assuming a lot of obligations we would otherwise have to bear.
Thank you, Supervisor Mott.
Mr. Chairman, to address that, and Bill might be able to get into it, but the leases we have with BLM, the RP&P are general leases that we can go back in and modify at any time. We've done that when we had Sarah Park. We've even done that in the Bullhead area with the additions of courtrooms and those sorts of things. So nothing is set in stone. If we have a building there, the uses in the federal government has been very good at working with us. Am I right on that? I mean, they don't just come in and say, well, that's all you've had, and that's the only thing that'll ever be there.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Johnson, I think you'd be rolling the dice on that. I think the reason they limited the use of the program was because they felt that that would be an appropriate use for that area. So whether they do it or not, I don't know.
So you're saying in none of the other places we've never had it, they've never dealt with us when we've gone and asked them to change things for, especially like with Sarah Park, where it's the same sort of a lease, where it's recreation lease. We've brought in different kinds of racing and those sorts of events. We've never had a negative from BLM on anything that
we haven't, but there's really no guarantee,
right,
depending upon the program.
Yeah, not saying there's a guarantee. And the money I think we're saving, Supervisor Moss, is money that comes from the general fund that we'll have to decide if the county can afford again this year. We've had some problems. We've cut it in the past year. We cut quite a bit of money out of that general fund money, and so the savings it's coming from our general fund, but it'll be up to this board to continue to put it in. When they divided up, Bullhead City took the WACOG money, and then they immediately had to go back to WACOG to get more money to run the program. So that money didn't come out of ours because that money was already set up for those. That's all I have.
Mr. Chairman?
Anything further, Mr. Supervisor? Supervisor Moss?
Whether it's, I've heard 20,000, I think, from Susie, and 50,000 from Mr. Cotter, and whether it's 20 or 50,000 out of our general fund, and whether we direct it to future senior programs or whether we direct it to other purposes, it's money we're not spending, and so we've saved it. So by transferring this lease, we have saved money for the tax. For at least it has given us more flexibility in allocating our resources. So it's not free. We have realized a benefit, a substantial benefit.
Thank you, Supervisor Moss. Any further questions? There being no further questions, I would like to make this one statement. I would like to thank Councilman Kathy Bruck for her commitment to the community, Bullhead City and the Mohave Valley area. Thank you very much. Okay. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Item carried. Item number 59, discussion, possible action, the appointment of members to the Mohave County Board of Supervisors to regional, state, and county boards, brought to us by Supervisor Johnson.
This is, Mr. Chairman, this is the continuation of the last meeting. I don't know if the board members have had a chance yet or they wanted to continue. I thought it was continued until February,
Yeah,
but if the board members are so willing to, if they've decided, or if they want to go to February, it's fine with me.
Let's go to February. I make a motion to continue this till February meeting.
Motion to continue.
Second.
And second. Any further questions? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Item 60, discussion possible action, the appointment of Jack Posnell to the Planning and Zoning Commission representing Supervisorial District 4, term to expire January 7, 2017.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Discussion. There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carried. Item 61, discussion, possible action, accept the resignation of Joseph Morabito from the Mohave County Planning and Zoning Commission effective January 7, 2013.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the resignation.
Second.
And second. Questions?
I'd like to make a statement if I could.
Certainly, Mr. Mott. Supervisor Mott.
Joseph Morabito is a resident of my district, and I'll have to acknowledge that in my contacts with him, I have come to the opinion that he's an outstanding individual and human being. And even though he's stepping down from the P&Z, it is my sincere hope he'll stay involved in Mohave County and consider service in other boards and commissions. He's a really stand-up guy and a benefit to District 5 and all of Mohave County.
Thank you, Supervisor Mott. Any further questions? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Item 62, discussion, possible action, approve the appointment of Mehdi Arzamani to the Planning and Zoning Commission representing Supervisorial District 5, term to expire January 7, 2017.
I move to approve the appointment of Mehdi Arzamani to the P&Z Commission.
We have a motion?
I second.
And a second.
By way of comment, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Certainly. Supervisor Moss.
Everything I said about Mr. Morabito holds true for Mr. Arzamani, with the added caveat, which I did not mention about Mr. Morabito, but it's equally true. Both these gentlemen have no problem calling me up and giving me a piece of their mind.
Very good.
Which is why I like people like that on these commissions.
Thank you. Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carried. Item number 63, discussion, possible action, approve the lease agreement number 12-SF-43 for Mohave County Supervisor District 5 for office space known as Suite number 102, located at 4168 Highway 95, Fort Mohave, Arizona, for a 2-year lease for $800 per month, beginning February 4th, 2013, ending February 3rd, 2015, with an option for renewal in 1-year increments.
I move to approve item 63.
Motion for approval?
I second.
And second?
To clarify for the public, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Certainly. Supervisor Mock.
What we're discussing is my, I guess another statute or rules, is my duty station. It'll be my principal office. Currently, I am, I believe the phrase that either he, she, or I have used before in the past, I'm bunking with Hildy, and my secretary and myself, we're kind of crowding her a little bit, and so this will give me the opportunity to have my own office and give us a little breathing room and space.
Thank you, Supervisor Mock. Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried. Wonderful meeting. Thank you. Adjourned.